Welcome to Allie's Attic, where you never know what kind of surprise you'll find in my attic. I'm your host, Allie, and today my surprise is an internationally acclaimed singer-songwriter and humanitarian, Katherine "KOOL Kat" Farnham. Hi, Kat.
Hi, Allie.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Now, basically, I want you to tell us your story, but I'm just want to start kind of. You are rapidly gaining acclaim for bringing a hot new sound to jazz, and you're a world-class vocalist. And it says in your bio, compared to other blues artists and jazz, or jazz and soul greats, which is true. Back in the day, they probably didn't have places where you could become a vocalist. So your sound is unbelievable. I absolutely love it. I love how you've taken standards and kind of made them your own and also crossed over to the newer stuff. So tell me how old you were when you first started getting interested in music and what brought you right up to now and this genre.
Yeah, that's a great way to kind of give the progression. Basically, I guess I was lucky in the sense that, my purpose seemed pretty clear. I was born into a musical family, very, very blessed to have amazingly talented musical parents. They were mainly in classical music, although my father loved popular music, R&B, and my mother loved musical theater. So I started listening to them, obviously, and then I started kind of messing around with, piano and composition when I was around 4. And then my first public performance was actually as an actress. I had a leading role in my kindergarten's Christmas pageant. And then about 6 months later, my teacher said, "We'd like you to sing a solo." So I started singing when I was around 5.
Wow.
And I remember that so vividly because, my mother was my accompanist and vocal coach, and she had worked with some great singers at the Santa Fe Opera, so she knew all about that. She was, the consummate professional. Even if she hadn't been my mother, she just knew what she was doing. And I learned that later as a teenager. You get out into the world and, my mom actually doesn't know what she's talking about. But she coached me for that, and, I had grown up seeing my father playing the trombone, grown up seeing my mother playing the piano, and I remember that day I thought, Mommy and Daddy have their thing. This is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to sing. So it was, a child looks at things in a certain way, and I guess that was a moment of clarity, so I started singing when I was 5. And then, I trained very vigorously throughout my teens and, kind of went professional pretty early on. I went to college, conservatory, and all that. Jazz was kind of in the forefront, from that time, because the first song that I did was kind of like a, boogie woogie jazz blues that my mom was accompanying. So I didn't really know what jazz was, but as a kid I thought, hey, this has got some rhythm, it's got some jazz, and I just liked it. I liked anything showy, anything kind of jazzy. In college, they started kind of saying, oh, you're a jazz singer. And I thought, wow, that's a label, and I think a lot of artists kind of are hesitant to embrace labels. But, everybody was doing it in college. They were like, oh, she's a jazz singer. And I was playing a lot of kind of rock clubs as well as jazz. So it confused me at the time. But, eventually I just embraced it. And I said, well, I do actually really love jazz. My take on it, is to make it as fresh and as contemporary as possible. So, on a song like Mermaid, we're kind of going in a more fusion direction. But I just love jazz, love the mindset and how it promotes exploration and creativity and kind of staying in the moment. And I feel so blessed that I was able to finish my album.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Now, I'm just going to talk. You're a Global Music Awards silver medalist. And that's all from your new release of your album, Vintage.
Yes.
That's quite the accomplishment for your first album. Holy. And I mean, you're Billboard charting. You're doing amazing. Now, on your album, I'm going to probably pronounce some of these names wrong, and I'm going to apologize now. It features Grammy winner and legendary saxophonist Kirk Whalum, Latin Grammy winning flutist, is that how you say it? Nestor Torres, and 4-time Grammy nominated guitarist Denny, and is it Jehoza? Or Jehoza?
Jehoza.
Okay, I was like, I'm going to screw this right up. Now also, this I loved. I absolutely love. A 2-time Emmy nominee and celebrity radio host, Philip Silverstone, captured your essence. And this should be something that when you have your banner behind you, when you go to, play concerts, this should be on there because, oh my God, this is such huge praise. Cool Cat is doing for jazz what Clapton did for the blues, bringing it to mainstream. I mean, being compared to Eric Clapton and knowing that, you're a pioneer in doing this stuff, like, I don't even know how I'd feel. Like, it must be, it's a good feeling.
Well, the story of making vintage hasn't really, I haven't really talked about that too much yet. I mean, at some point I probably will, but I think it, as fans, if you knew what I went through to get that record done, I think those kind of comments would make sense. I mean, you get to a certain point where you have a vision that is, not entirely understood by a lot of people that are, doing what you're doing, and you have to kind of make decisions. So, I had to make a lot of kind of, different decisions, very gutsy, courageous decisions to get it done. And, I think it was Midwest Record came out and said something about Miles Davis. So, being compared to 2 men like that, giants in music, it took me aback as well. But at the same time, I know the decisions that I made to get it done, and a lot of times I just had to be, have more courage than I ever thought, was possible. But I don't regret that. It was like either I'm going to finish it by kind of coming at it like that and making decisions, kind of like the director of Wonder Woman. I think she was quoted recently in an interview where she had said that some of the fight scenes in the Los Angeles Times, people were, reviewers were saying, oh, we just cry and cry because it's just such a great day for women and da. And, I felt like that too. I felt like charting that course of the album, so many people didn't understand what I was trying to do. And as a woman, a lot of times music also is a man's world, and I had to make those choices. But I felt so liberated when I read what she had said, and she said no one understood what I was trying to do until the scenes were actually done. Like, it went all the way to the completed version of those scenes, and now everyone loves it. And that kind of stuff is so difficult as an artist, but I kind of went through something similar. So, I don't know how I feel about it either. I'm just grateful that I got it done.
Well, that's good. Now, you've been on Good Morning America, NBC6, and Telemundo. Now, you are a Los Angeles Music Award winner for Female Singer-Songwriter of the Year. And you've performed for athletic fans at the Miami Marathon, the Ericsson Open. Let's talk about a man-only world. You were the only female artist performing there. That shocked me when I read that.
Yeah. Again, my consciousness when I started out, I wasn't like trying to do anything. I wasn't like, I have to. I didn't start out that way. I just thought everyone did it the way I did it. But that year that they asked me to sing there, I realized later, I think it was after the gig was over, that, I was the only girl that was there. But, I love tennis, and it was a great event. So,
yeah. That's good. Well, at least you were there representing us. You've also done NASCAR. That must be an experience in itself. I think I want to go one day. I think the adrenaline and just everything around there, the atmosphere would be just contagious. I couldn't even imagine what it's like.
Yeah, Yeah, NASCAR is crazy. That NASCAR is like, oh my god. Yeah, I have some really like nutty stories. When I first moved to Los Angeles, I had very little money, and every time I had kind of a big car because I was loading a lot of equipment and moving stuff around all the time. But I could only afford to put this is crazy, but I could only afford to put like maybe $12 to $15 worth of gas in my tank at a time. Wow. And for anyone who's ever driven in LA, you can get kind of caught on a freeway, and then if you get lost, it's not so easy to get off to, find where you're going. I mean, you can sit into traffic for a long time during that. So the likelihood of running out of gas when you're only putting in, like a quarter tank at a time, it's pretty high.
Yeah, no kidding.
And I, and I knew that what I was doing was not logically very intelligent, but, I was like, I'm going to follow my dreams no matter what. And so that was the only thing I could do at the time. So I would put in a quarter tank, and a couple of days later, try to squeeze in another $15, squeeze in another $15. And so there were months that went by where I was literally just driving on fumes. And
jeez.
I remember thinking so many times, like, this is so stupid. Why am I doing this? And I would just pray and pray and pray. I was like, please get me to the next gas station. I was always like afraid I was going to run out of gas. And this went on for a long time, and things got a little bit better. But eventually, a couple of years later, they asked me to sing for NASCAR, and I just started cracking up because I remember thinking what I had been doing, like with the gas, and driving on fumes and all of that. And it was kind of like a vindicating moment. But the energy is incredible, and sometimes it depends on the super speedway that you're actually going to. Like, I think it was either Las Vegas or Dallas. Just finding parking in the speedway is like a sport in itself. Those arenas are just so huge. But just being there where it's electric, and the attitude of the drivers is just really exciting. And they have a whole strategy. I mean, they train, and when they take a break, they have to do certain things. And just to kind of be able to walk through the speedway and watch them, there's a lot of learning involved too. Mm-hmm. But I had a great time, and it also kind of increased my awareness about driving, and I've driven cross country like 5-6 times now, and it really is a sport at a certain level. When you've been going for 7-10 hours a day, you're using your mind and your body, and it's a lot of energy that you're putting out to drive. So I never really thought about driving as being athletic, but I had like a new respect for the drivers after that.
Yeah, I guess after going there, that would be amazing. Okay, now let's talk about your humanitarian side, because I absolutely love what you do. There's a song on your album called My Shoes Are Leaking, and it's a veterans tribute about a couple separated by military deployment, which effortlessly, I'm reading your bio, merges the classic with the contemporary. How did that song come about?
Well, I mean, do you want the politically correct answer, or you want the real?
Give me the real stuff. It says on the front page of my website, all my interviews are real and raw. So go ahead.
I think the artistic process often can be healing, but there are parts of you that are throwing up things that maybe you're not completely analyzing until after. And I think that song was probably like that for me. I wrote that about a given situation, a relationship that was breaking up, where the person was, going away to a different location than where I was. And, I think we were both kind of in denial that day, and it was kind of like, I'm hearing what he's saying to me, but, oh my God, I'm walking through a puddle, and my socks are all wet, and now I'm focusing on my shoes rather than what he's saying, because you don't really want to process emotionally the impending sadness that may be coming. But when I heard it later on, I realized that it was probably about, something much deeper, and this moment had kind of just reminded me of the past. And, I basically kind of lived that, because my first real boyfriend in high school actually did go, into the Navy, and no one really thought in the beginning he would be sent to Iraq, but, eventually he was. So I was very young at that time, and being 16 years old and suddenly confronted with something of that magnitude, it was just a really life-changing experience. So, as an artist now with a song like that, I think the culture is, everybody is a lot more conscious of, what those people go through, and whether you agree or not, there's real human effort and suffering there. So, when they come back, they have to kind of acclimate to civilian life again, and then the family and the friends that are supporting them also have their own burdens to carry. So, it's just kind of reaching out and saying, like, hey, whatever anybody believes about, okay, we should be doing this, we shouldn't, in a way it doesn't matter, because the point is it's happened, and there are men and even women now doing it.
Yeah.
And so we have to take care of them, just kind of be like, hey, are you okay? Are you coming back? Are you transitioning? Because, it's scary, and they're putting themselves out there. So, I try to support veterans' causes when I can, and obviously, I think we'd all love to live in a world where none of that would even be necessary. But
no wars.
In the meantime, it's like, let's take care of the people that as much as we can.
Exactly. Yeah, and like talking about when they come back and transitioning, there's always the PTSD and all kinds of stuff. So, I commend them constantly. Canada, where I'm from, is involved, but not that much. Not as much as the States. The men and women that serve your country amaze me daily. So it was really nice that you did a song like that. I was just really touched. And even now, knowing that it was based on your experience, is even better, because now I love the song even more. Now, like I said, you're a passionate humanitarian, and you're active in encouraging music's role in improving intercultural relations and tolerance as the founder of Music for Peace International. So you came up with that?
Yeah, I did actually. I had a project that I worked on when I lived in South Florida, the Mosaic Sea Release project, which kind of got my mind thinking in terms of dialogue. And if you're familiar with the concept of dialogue, a dialogue is kind of like a new paradigm for debate. Like the old school, paradigm of the debate, it's like, you talk about an issue and there's kind of like a winner and a loser. Whereas the paradigm of dialogue is, the goal is really just to educate and to listen. And so if you have, let's say, an interfaith dialogue, you have people from different faiths sitting in a room, and, there can be a facilitator or a moderator, and you basically all just sit there, and the goal is to say, hey, these are my values. This is what is really important to me. This is how I see it. And then you really just listen to understand, and, listening not to respond, but to really just get it and to be like, oh, okay. And a lot of times, when behavior is not always understood, after a dialogue, you'll go, oh, yeah, if a person has these sort of values, then it's going to make sense that they're doing X and X and X. And then, the other side goes, and then they do that. So the process of communication, I think, can become much more effective and dynamic when you do that, because you understand how to really get at the heart of the matter, and sometimes it's lost when you don't do dialogue. So in terms of Music for Peace International, after years of being an educator, a lot of my teaching used aspects of that dialogue. You know, for instance, if you're in a private lesson with a student and, you know, they're doing pretty well, but they don't want to do any classical music at all, and then it's kind of just listening to where they're coming from. Like, why do they have this resistance? So, like, okay, you know, Mozart, man, that's not cool. I don't want to play it. It's like, okay, hey, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Where are you coming from? Why don't you like that? Okay. Oh, well, because, you know, I gotta sit there and then, you know, it's just too long and then, you know, so you have a conversation with these kids and you really hear where they're coming from. And then a lot of times I don't really seek to change their mind. I'll just really try to understand.
Yeah.
And then, you know, maybe later, once the trust is built, you kind of come in and say, well, hey, you know, you can listen to a movement. You don't have to listen to the whole symphony or something like that. Or, hey, listen, have you considered that Beethoven was technically disabled and he still wrote this amazing piece of music? And, you know, like the inner city kids in Los Angeles are like, hey, I can't learn to do this because, you know, I've moved 3 times in 3 months and, you know, there's a shooting down the road and, like, my life is just in crisis. And I'm like, I hear you. I'm not denying your pain.
Yeah.
You know, but this guy was deaf and he still wrote a symphony. And then their eyes pop and they go, really? And I'm like, yes, this is true. And then they're like, oh my God, wow, maybe I could learn something new and actually sustain it, you know. So Music for Peace kind of came out of the Mosaic Initiative where, you know, really unifying diversity is a lot of hard work. And you've got to be a communicator. You've got to understand where people are coming from. You've got to understand that the way people speak Spanish in South America is not the same way they speak it in Central America, and respect these small little differences, and then they listen to you. And then Music for Peace. Well, how do we get rid of conflict? We get rid of it by figuring out what the problem really is. What are really the issues involved? A lot of times it's just misunderstanding. So just really listening to understand. And so music can teach those things. And basically, you know, it's an educational model. We try to do some events, but it's also just sort of like a paradigm, a way of thinking that, you know, the concept of harmony that's found in music is really the same thing as peace. So if you understand conceptually, even if you don't play music or sing, if you understand the concept of harmony as it's found in music, it's already there, it's there in nature, and it's the same thing as peace.
Yeah. That was an amazing description. Amazing. And I'm so glad you're helping inner city youth. Wow. Okay. I loved you before I started this interview. I think I love you even. Anyways, in 20.
Well, you know, that whole little thing that took a long time, maybe like 5 to 10 years to kind of come up with that. So it's not like I just whipped that out yesterday.
Well, even that you came up with it, period, Kat. Come on. It's good. Now, in 2011, you performed a national tour as part of the MFPI, which is Music Peace International, right? Music for Peace International. Traveling from Las Vegas throughout the South and onto the East Coast. Now, you also mentored Los Angeles inner city youth and served for 2 consecutive years as celebrity voice judge for the Los Angeles Music Center's annual Spotlight Awards. That's exciting.
Yeah, I love being a judge. I got to judge alongside some just, you know, brilliant singers and actors, a couple of original cast members for, you know, Broadway plays in New York, and just amazing women. And that was a lot of fun. Those are high school kids, and they're very advanced, very, you know, focused and motivated. And, you know, we provide a lot of suggestions for their overall coaching and growth, regardless of what kind of score they get. But, you know, they definitely are working to help the young people because, you know, it's not an easy career. So by that time and that age, you know, they need a little bit of help. So it was great to just get to hear so many young people. I mean, it's not really like a concert, but, you know, you're sitting there hearing singer after singer after singer, and it's very enjoyable to be a judge. And plus, you get to kind of help them out and give different comments too. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that would be fun. You should go on The Voice.
Hey, that would be amazing. Knock on wood, who knows?
Yeah, that's
God willing. Maybe someday soon. Yeah.
someday, hopefully. So if you're listening, people, that's what I don't watch TV. That's the only show I watch. Now you also have organized 6 benefit concerts in major cities, and it's supporting music, education, human and animal rights, and ethnic unity. That is amazing, Kat, that you're, helping all these causes. I just think it's amazing. And I love when musicians give back.
Oh, yeah. No, I think you have to, I love music, but as a solo artist, it can get a little, overly self-centered at times. It's like, okay, my video, pictures of me, music of me, that, and it's like, this isn't about me. I just told someone the other day, we had something we were working on visually, and I said, this is calling attention to me. This should be calling attention to the music first. And everybody was like, oh. So, I do, obviously, I think, self-love is very important, but, the lessons that my mentors have taught me, are very important. To just have your entire career and your artistic output based on certain values. And it really is about the music first. And I'm just so blessed to be able to do it and hopefully keep learning and growing. But the people that mentored me were kind of interested in most of those causes, definitely in music education. My mother was definitely involved in human and animal rights. I mean, she would rescue, little kitties and she was always, if somebody was getting mistreated or if there was a kid that was struggling or someone was like not taking care of an animal, she would like be the first person to stand up and be like, hey, what's going on here?
Yeah.
This is right. Come on. And, she would really do that. And it took me a long time to realize that she was actually an activist, because years later sometimes I would do the same type of thing and she wouldn't be around, and I would be just kind of looking around like, no one's saying anything, like they're just going on their way. And I'm like, hey, and everyone's like, oh, well, hey man, I'm busy, I gotta like make a call, or I gotta go. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It's cat right there, it doesn't have any food, and it's like bleeding, and I'm like, oh my god, somebody do something. So, but it's work, you know what I mean? Like sometimes when I've been very involved, with those causes, I feel, very, very drained afterwards. So
yeah,
it's definitely work, because you're seeking to fill gaps in society that someone needs to fill. So I think all I can really do is just be a spark, and I think everybody can make a difference. Like anybody in their daily life, can give $5 to your nearest food bank or whatever. And if we all kind of did 10 to 20% more than what we're doing, I think we could solve a lot of problems without politics ever entering into these discussions at all. I think the communities, and I love Canada because you guys are so peaceful and yet you're so diverse. And I'm like, how do you guys do that?
Because we're the friendly country.
You are. Canadians are awesome.
Thank you. I think so too. No, anyways. That's how we do it. I don't know how or where it all came about. It was how I was brought up. It's how, everybody that I know is brought up. And it's a joke along, a lot of people that I talk to from the States is, oh, you guys are always saying sorry or I love you and it doesn't matter the color of your skin. And I'm like, well, yeah, because it doesn't. Like, why is that surprising? So it's just weird to hear us described that way. But you know what? It's a lot of fun too, learning about different ethnicities. I can't even say. Never mind. I'm not going to try to say that again. And the food.
That is difficult.
Yeah. And like the food and all kinds of stuff. So when I saw, and I'm a sucker for animals. My mom used to get so mad at me when I was little. I would bring home birds that fell out of the tree. I brought home an owl that the mother abandoned. There was cats, dogs. Yeah. So,
Oh.
yeah, I was bad. And actually 2.5 years ago, I gave my husky away, purebred Siberian husky I rescued. So I can understand where your mom comes from and you come from. Because it's just, somebody's got to stand up for these things. So I'm so glad that you are. It's just amazing. Because I mean, you must be so busy with your career, and then doing all this on the side is just like, it's awe-inspiring. Like, to be completely honest, like, more artists need to do stuff like this, because it's going to bring communities together, and without politics. And like, you're so right. It needs to be a dialogue, and it's not, and it's sad.
Yeah, I don't know how Canadians feel, but again, just having a dialogue, you're our neighbors, and I feel like Americans benefit right now from putting this focus on, human beings. There's so many labels, like artists like to be labels,
Yeah.
And I think politics, and political parties is also a label, but what about the human being? Each human being has the power, right, in their own home, in their own community, to help out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe we've forgotten how much we can really do that has nothing to do with government. Not that it's not important, because it is, but, just doing little things. And if everyone pitches in, I think that, most people can do something. I remember there were years in Los Angeles, I couldn't give any money to causes. I mean, maybe like $10 or $20 at a time, because I couldn't even put gas in the car.
Yeah.
And there are obviously limits to, even now, to what, anybody can do, and we can't all save the world, but I think, we can all do little things. And it just feels better, because I think on some level, collective pain is really, we feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like you're knocking out, your neighbor's pain. It's like, well, you're still connected to your neighbor. So
yeah, exactly. And when Katy Perry came out on the Grammys and sang that song talking about you need to come down from your ivory towers and, help out and realize what's going on and save our country. And it really struck me, because every country has to do that. And you're right. I mean, there's racism in Canada as well, and all kinds of bad things happen and stuff. But one thing my grandma taught me was, when you're walking down the street, smile at everybody, because they might be having the worst day in the world, and your smile can make the biggest difference. So that's how I grew up as well. And I believe in, just peace. I'm like born in the 60s. I'm a flower child. You know what I mean? So I just love that you do this stuff, along with your music. I mean, your music's amazing, as everybody's going to find out. So yeah, like, hats off to you, Kat. You blow me away. Now, if you had any advice to give any new artist that was just starting out, what kind of advice would you give them?
Oh my, yeah, I was probably in a better position to answer those kinds of questions years ago. I think, my take on it is, your values are everything. Always come back to, why are you doing it? Like, for me, I absolutely passionately love music. Music was in my household, from the time I was a kid. My father would always look at me and be like, hey, kid, you make music with conviction and passion and guts. You don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
Come on, sock that bass line. Come on, sing it like you mean it, And I'd be like, huh, what? What are you talking about, Dad? It's like, relax. I watch the TV here, when I was a teenager. But your values, that, I guess that's inside of me, and somewhere along the line, like, wherever I am, I always come back and I'll hear, like, my parents, my mentors' voices in my head going, like, what am I doing? Am I doing something right now that I'm listening to my heart and going, I have conviction for this? Okay, great. If I do, keep doing it. And if I don't, it's like time to reassess. So, have those values as to why you're doing it, and, try to never really stray too far from that, and, keep your integrity and just, work hard. Don't try to manipulate people, or, there's way too much of that, I think, in the industry. And, a lot of times we have to grow and mature and realize how to be assertive and get what you want and move yourself forward without doing that. But, there's a fine line between being a people pleaser and not staying true to yourself. You have to find ways of progressing that are honest and good. And it's a lot of work. It is absolutely exhausting. And when I started Music for Peace, I thought, hey, everybody's going to go, what a great idea. That's all my friends. And they'd be like, oh, we just need a more peaceful world. So I thought, hey, people are going to jump on this bandwagon. They're going to be excited, and it's going to be great. And that's not what happened at all.
No. Oh, no.
And it was like, I was like, oh my God, this is like starting out as a musician. It's like everything is just brand new. You got to start it from the ground up. And I was like, hey, can you give me a $20 donation for Christmas? Don't buy me another purse. Don't buy me another set of PJs. Just show me that you believe in this, because everybody is saying this is what they want. They want a peaceful world. So, hey, jump on board. No, I don't want to give you $20. And I'm like, why not? So you have to be prepared for a lot of work and a lot of energy. But I've had these moments. It's a great feeling when you struggle and struggle and struggle, and you're thinking like, oh my God, nothing is happening, and you just keep working, and then something breaks, and that's a great feeling.
Yeah, it would be. I liked what you said at the beginning too about labels. I love artists that I love all artists, no matter if they're country, and that's what they are, or they're rock, and that's what they are. I listen to them, I love them, but I also love people who stray outside that box and bring different sounds into their music and make it even better and magical. So you caught me with that right off the start. So I was going to wait till you gave advice to bring that up because I agree with you about being labeled. So I'm really glad that you're not, because your music wouldn't be what it is right now. Now, what songs are we going to hear from you?
Well, it's funny because the first one, My Funky Valentine, wasn't even initially on the list to be on the record at all. And we were actually in the studio that day, and we had, laid down some tracks for some other stuff on the record. And I said, hey, let's go in here and just mess around with the standard. And didn't even have a chart for it, hadn't played it in a while, whatever. And, my bass player to pull up the thing on his phone, I was like, I remember the tune, but wait a minute, okay, there's several different arrangements, so, you can reharmonize or whatever. So I was like, hey, okay, in the bridge, are you going to play this chord or whatever? So you normally have very well prepared and all that, but we were completely spontaneous. And, we probably mic'd it more like it was going to be pop. We didn't really set up the mics like, hey, we're going to do a jazz trio. But we just kind of threw it together. And the engineer just flipped out. He's like, oh my God, I love this. And then he just took ownership of it, and we had to mix it 4 or 5 times because we didn't mic it right from the start. That was the only thing about the spontaneity part. So we wanted to come up with this hybrid kind of, jazz, pop contemporary sound. And we eventually got it, but he was extremely passionate about it. He loved it. He kept mixing it, and I didn't have to tell him, everything. He was just like working and working and working. I was like, wow, this is really, taking a hold. And then we finally got it done. And at first I was like, okay, well, we have the standard on there, and I wanted to have a standard on there, so I was happy about it. But, I guess listeners have really gravitated towards that. And I understand that because it's kind of like the classic standard that serves a number of functions, one of which is to kind of educate and introduce, new people to these songs are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
These standards. I could write songs for the rest of my life and never write songs that are, better than that probably. So, the standards are amazing. So, to introduce more people to that, I think, definitely happy to be able to do that. And then just to kind of put a fresh spin on it, because when I started out, a lot of people, had ideas about what I should do in the studio, and they were like, oh, you should sing ballads. You're a ballad singer. You should sing My Funny Valentine. And I was like, okay, but I don't know. Something just didn't feel right. So when we put the little spin on it, I remember the drummer was like, oh, nice. Oh, what's the piano? Oh, okay. So we just had fun with it. So the first song will be My Funky Valentine, and then the second one is Necessary Groove, which is kind of like, getting your priorities straight: food, clothing, shelter, and music. I have to have my music.
So do I. 24/7. I'm glad you're bringing some of the standards back because they are great. I have a friend who has just started singing. He doesn't think he can sing, and he does Frank Sinatra like you would not believe. And I'm like, please get a pen and paper and write stuff down and sing it in that style because it needs to come back. Like it needs to. We're missing out on a whole generation of great, great music. So I'm very glad that you're bringing it back with Funky Valentine. And I like that you called it My Funky Valentine. So people can purchase your music pretty much anywhere online that anybody purchases music, or is it just certain spots? Like, are you on iTunes, Spotify?
Yeah, it's a standard cachet of sites. You can go on iTunes, Apple Music, Amazon.com has some reviews on there, and then my site, KatherineFarnham.com, Katherine with a K, and what else? I think CD Baby has it as well.
Okay. I'll put your website up on my website. It doesn't link because it just doesn't for some reason. I'm also going to put up Music for Peace International because I'd really love people to go and look that up as well and maybe find a way that they can contribute or start it in their community because I just think it's a great idea. So I urge everybody to go out and purchase Kat's music, support this artist. We all know, even me, even though I'm not a singer, it's really hard when you start out. And once you get it, even though I think you should be, signed and on stage and at the Grammys and, wherever, it's still hard. And people sometimes have to work 2 jobs. And so I believe in supporting the artist. So please, once you listen to her songs, you're going to fall in love with them. You're going to fall in love with her after this interview. And purchase them and support her. So Kat, thank you. I know that you are traveling and you stopped and took time out to do this. I appreciate that you came on my show. I appreciate you. I am such a fan. Like you would not believe when I first discovered you, I was like, oh my God. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me. I like I said, I love Canada, and it's always a pleasure to connect with our neighbors and that great energy. I'm sitting. My car is probably 90 degrees right now.
Oh my God, Kat! Jeez. Oh my God.
Like, where should I sit to do this?
Oh, she's melting.
It didn't bother me that in the last 20 minutes, I'm like, it's a really hot day right now.
Oh, no.
I love doing this stuff, and I love, sharing and giving back. And if anybody is interested in Music for Peace, we definitely could use volunteers, even if they're just online. Having some extra oomph for that project is always helpful because it's something, I think it's a dream and it's a vision that everybody on some level is kind of already choosing and wanting, and if we can just own it, I can't be the only person that is pushing that ball forward because it's a pretty big ball.
Yeah, it is.
But we could definitely use volunteers. So if anybody's interested, and I'm hoping to have some events at some point. There's also going to be through my website, but the vintage CD, 10% of the proceeds goes to Music for Peace. So if you buy the CD, some of it will funnel into that. And then I'm going to offer on my website a Music as Life Tool online workshop where we're basically teaching these principles. And then a portion of that money will also go to Music for Peace. So if you want to support it, you can also, purchase the products, and then that will be going to them as well.
Okay. And I'm heard worldwide. I have amazing fans in the UK and Ireland and Australia, which shocked me.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so that's why I want to put it up on my website, because, I mean, in a perfect world, we could make your vision become worldwide and support what you do, because what you do and why you do it is a great idea. So it's going to be up on my website as well. And yeah, anything new happens, Kat, my door's always open. This isn't a one-shot deal. If you start releasing singles for a new album or whatever, I put them on a page on my website called Odds and Ends and help promote them. I also have on Wednesdays, it's called Allie's Artisan Alcove, where artists that have been on my show come back and perform acoustic. It's audio, but no, it's audio and video, because I've now figured out how to do the video part. So it's the artist's choice if they want to be seen while they do it or just heard while they do it. And you just perform 4 songs. So that's there also if you're, ever interested in that. And yeah, thank you again, Kat. You're an inspiration and you're amazingly talented. And if you ever do win a Grammy or anything, can you just shout out my name? No, I'm joking.
Hey, no, it'll happen. It'll happen soon. In terms of listeners that may be in the general northern area, if you are in New York, New Jersey, tri-state area, I'll be performing at the Hub City Jazz Festival in November. It's in New Brunswick, New Jersey, not too far from you, a couple hours away. So I just want to put that out there. And, I wanted to ask you, actually, how did you come up with the name Allie's Attic Show? That is so cool.
Actually, my name is Alin, and I was in radio for 18 years before I did this. And it started at one radio station, Alley Cat, because my name, nobody gets my name right. It's Aline or Ellen, or it started at a radio station, the second one I worked at, and it's just followed me. And the majority of the people in my life call me Allie. So I came across that picture on Pinterest, actually, and I was like, oh my God, I would love to just live in there. Like, it looks so amazing. And the chair that's in there is the exact chair that my mom used to have. Yeah. Cool. So I had to actually email the lady on Pinterest and ask her if I could use it, and I got her permission, and that's how it came about. I mean, 10 years ago, I never would have thought to do something like this, and now that I'm doing it, I'm 6 months into it. I'm booked till September 19th, and I absolutely love what I'm doing. But yeah, that's how the Allie's Attic came out.
Oh, see, I knew there was a story there. That's so cool. And I love attics. There's so many unique, and I guess that's the point of what you're saying. There's so many unique and special and different things that you can find in attics. I found this old-fashioned Bible in our attic a couple of years ago, and it had my uncle's name on it. And I didn't expect to find it up there, and it was the old-fashioned kind that has, like, the colored plate pictures in it.
Oh, yeah.
Like lime with gold. And, most of I think all the ones I have don't have photos like that in it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, geez, I wonder what this is doing up here. It's my uncle, it's not my parents or my dad or whatever. And he was actually in the hospital at that time, and I think it was that evening that I found the Bible. He went into ICU. And something told me, like, maybe you should go visit your uncle. So I was going to go visit him anyway. And he's like, no, don't come right now. And I'm like, I think he needs help. I think I'm going to go just pay him a visit and be like, hey, can I help out? So I went to see him, and, I went to the hospital, and I said, I think I have something that belongs to you. And I said, this is your Bible. And, it was a lot of work, but he was a pilot in the Air Force in Vietnam, and in terms of supporting veterans, he went through a lot, but it affected his health, so he's had surgeries and things. But he's a fighter, and then he came out, and like a week later, they finally let him out of the hospital. But I thought that was so weird. In an attic, I found that book like the day before, and he wasn't feeling well, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Attics are just cool. I don't know what they mean, but they must be
special. You can find so many cool things, and like, that's divine intervention if I've ever heard. I'm just saying. But yeah, you can find so many cool things, and they're so fun to explore. We did it as kids, and like, my dream is to have a house with an attic like that, so I can just hang out up there, because it looks loving and peaceful, and yeah. I love it. So I'm glad you found that. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish you all the best with that.
Yeah, thank you. I'll get there one day. You're gonna get there way before me. Anyways, Kat, I'm gonna release you from melting in a car. Oh.
My face is like beat right now.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You should have gone in where there was air conditioning. Anyways.
Yeah, I know. The car automatically shuts off after a given amount of time, and I didn't want you to hear this like motor going vroom.
I don't know. I'd rather hear that than have you pass out from heat exhaustion. Anyways, thank you so much for coming on my show, Kat.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for joining me on Allie's Attic. Keep checking my website, because you never know what kind of surprises you'll find in my attic. Cheers!